I sat alone in my tiny flat in London, surrounded by the remnants of a life that once was. The walls were empty, the shelves bare, and the air thick with silence. It had been 6 months since my wife left me, and it still felt like yesterday. I'd been trying to piece together what went wrong, but the truth is, I don't think I'll ever really know. We met in our mid-20s, both fresh-faced and full of hope for the future. We were young, but we knew we wanted to spend our lives together. We got married after a few years of dating, and the first few years were blissful. We laughed, we traveled, and we talked about everything under the sun. But as time went on, something changed. We grew comfortable with each other, which sounds like a good thing, but in reality meant we stopped trying. We stopped going out on dates, stopped making an effort to surprise each other, stopped communicating as openly as we used to. We were still together, but the passion that had once fueled us was fizzling out. I started to notice my wife pulling away from me. She seemed distant, distracted, and uninterested in anything I had to say. At first I thought it was just a phase, but it didn't go away. We tried couples therapy, but it didn't seem to help. We were both so entrenched in our routines and habits that we couldn't break out of them. Then, one day, she told me she wanted a divorce. I was blindsided. I'd known things weren't great, but I didn't realize they were that bad. She told me she didn't love me anymore, that she hadn't for a long time. She said she needed space, time to figure out who she was and what she wanted. I didn't know what to say. I was hurt, angry, confused. We separated, and I moved into the flat. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I went through the motions, trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I still loved my wife, but it was over. We'd talked a few times since the split, but it was always stilted and awkward. I thought we were both trying to be civil, but it was hard. I know I made mistakes in our marriage, but so did she. I wished I could go back and do things differently, but we couldn't. All I could do now was learn from my mistakes and try to move forward. So there I was, in my flat, 6 months on. It still hurt, and I was tired of feeling this way. I'd tried to move on, but I couldn't seem to shake her from my heart. So, I made a decision. I was going to try a love spell. I know, it might not seem rational, but I'd reached a point where I was willing to try anything. So, I did some research and found your site, Joshua. I read every page, twice. I didn't hesitate. I filled out my application, which you graciously accepted. My spell was to be cast 2 days later. At first, nothing seemed to happen. But then, after about 10 days, I received a text message from my wife. She said she'd been thinking about me a lot lately and wanted to talk. I was stunned. Had the spell worked? We arranged to meet for coffee, and as soon as I saw her, I knew. The spell had worked. She looked just as beautiful as the day we got married, and the warmth in her smile made my heart skip a beat. We talked for hours. It felt like we were young again, full of hope and excitement. As we said our goodbyes, my wife hugged me. I could feel her heart beating against mine. I knew that the love spell had brought us back together, and I was grateful for it. We started dating again, and things quickly became serious. We fell in love all over again, and this time we were determined not to make the same mistakes. We're so happy together, and I'm grateful for your spell that brought us back together. I know it's not something everyone would agree with, but sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. I'm glad I did, and I know that my wife and I will be together for the rest of our lives.